Hey y'all, welcome to the Salt and Light podcast. Today we have Pastor Payton and Jonah Roberts. They're the youth pastors at North Shore Worship Center, which is my church from back home. But they're awesome. They just recently started a family and had a sweet baby boy, and he's on the podcast too. And they actually came from Alabama, so Peyton's a Bama fan. We'll
Cool.
pretend Jonah is too.
Jonah, you're originally from Tennessee, right?
Originally from Tennessee, but I am a Longhorns fan. So just a different color orange.
Get out of here.
Yep.
But yes, we're so excited to have them on the podcast today and just ask them about their journey and all the things God's been doing in the youth group that they're currently pastoring right now. So yes, we're so excited to have y'all.
Thanks for having
Before
us.
we get started, we got an icebreaker. So, Jonah and Peyton, what is one of your funniest either youth group memories as a student or as a youth leader?
So the one that comes to mind for me is we were doing a series back in Alabama. We were both youth leaders, and one of the boys or one of the youth leaders, he was riding like a mini tricycle and trying to jump over a ramp. And as he's going on this tricycle, there's a picture of me and my brother. We're standing back behind him. And as he's going to jump over the ramp, we can just see that this is about to end terribly. There's literally a picture of us, and we're just both like, talk about what is about to happen to him. And lo and behold, I think he like fractured his arm or something like that and come in the next week to church with a sling on. So that's probably one of top 3 or 4 for sure. That comes to mind. So
Yeah. I think I just thought about this one. We went to Winterfest this year. I mean, it's like kind of funny, but the whole thing of the trip, like when you go on trips and there's something kind of saying or something that gets brought up and it's like the saying of the trip.
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay, so our word was chop. Everyone was calling it.
Chopped. Oh no.
I mean, y'all, we were wearing each other out. And then on the way home, in our group text, everyone was going onto their parents' Facebook pages and pulling baby pictures or like not cute pictures of each other and sending it. And I kid you not,
It
there were
was
probably like
hilarious.
1,000 messages. Like it was,
Oh my goodness.
yeah,
It went on for probably like 30 or 45 minutes, and it was hilarious.
yeah,
It was hilarious.
yeah.
But yeah.
The lingo of our generation is so weird. Yeah.
It's
Right now
terrible. I hate it.
we're wearing 6-7 out right now. So
But
Literally,
dude,
I
it's been going on way too long.
Oh my gosh. When I texted Peyton and Jonah about doing the podcast, we originally talked about doing the time between I was saying 6 and 7 o'clock, and I was like, oh my gosh, like this sounds so bad. I was like, I'm not trying to be a brain rotted person right now.
Oh, you can't even say anymore. Like
You
we
can't.
were at my mom's house for Thanksgiving and I was like, it's cold. What's the AC on? And it was 6-7. I was like, 6-7. Like, why am I acting like this? I'm an adult.
No, and I have to say in the past few podcast episodes, we've had several 6-7 events, and we were literally talking about God creating Earth in 6 days and resting on the seventh, and like you just couldn't avoid it, and we didn't acknowledge it, but I was thinking it the whole time.
Yeah. Can't.
I don't
Do
even
you wanna-
catch along on it sometimes. I had somebody
No.
message me on Instagram, and like there was like 67 people that liked a post, and I didn't even catch on it. They circled it, and they're like, "Look, what is wrong with you?" Emma,
Goodness.
what's your funny youth memory?
Okay, I don't think this is like the funniest one, but it was really funny, especially in the moment. We went to, I think it was Winterfest also, and we went to Gatlinburg. This was a while back. This was a long time ago. But at this trip, all the guys like bet one of their friends like, "Oh, we'll give you $100 if you go." Like, mind you, it's winter, it's snowing, we're in Tennessee. And they're like, if you go outside, like in your bathing suit and get in the water, because there's like a little stream next to it, and sing My Little Teapot, like we'll give you $100. And he did it, and oh my gosh, it was a whole event. Like we all went downstairs and watched him sing My Little Teapot. He looked frigid, but he got his $100, so
He like
it was
lost a
worth it.
slide and it started floating down the river. His
Yeah.
soaking wet shorts he hung up on the balcony that night, and we were leaving the next day, and they were just stiff as a board, just like
Mhm.
completely froze.
Yeah, that's hilarious.
It was funny.
So I'll give two. I'll give one whenever I was a youth pastor, one whenever I was a youth student. We went on to a conference one time out of town, and we were stuck in some traffic in downtown. And I remember we pulled up like next to this like bar kind of like there was like an outdoor seating bar right next to us. And I was driving and I saw like some kind of commotion going on outside. And I started like joking around with the students, like almost playing it up like something bad was about to happen. I was like, oh my goodness, look at these people acting a fool or something like that. And then next thing you know, what even happened, Emma? Like some one chick walks up to
I don't know.
another and just drops her. She just smokes her. She
Dang.
hits the ground. Next thing you know, there's several people swinging. They're pulling them
It was
apart.
so
And
bad.
we're stuck at a red light. And we're just like, look,
Yes.
oh my
Well,
goodness.
and like me and Kaylin had just turned 18 on that trip. So they kept joking like, "Oh, Emma and Kaylin, y'all can go in those bars now," because like we were 18. Well, obviously we weren't going to, but like it was just the joke. And then as they're all saying that, like we look over and we're like, "Oh my gosh!" It just
Grabbed
came
her
out
by
of
her hair,
nowhere.
started smoking her.
Yeah, it was horrible. It was actually
It
bad.
was funny because like we kind of had pointed it out beforehand, and then we watched the whole thing play out. It wasn't like we just saw somebody on the
Yes.
ground. We watched the whole thing.
That's so funny.
And then another funny one. I was always kind of like, I guess, the class clown of the youth group growing up, and they also gave me a position just to keep me busy. And so I always worked sound for the youth group. I was either like working sound or the lights or something like that. And I was working sound this one service, and our youth pastor just like, he never really did sermons on this, but I mean, most youth pastors don't just because of the awkwardness of it. But our youth pastor decided to do a sermon on sex, and he had like just a 1 week sex series. And I remember he asked me to like put on some music because he was like wrapping it up or something. And it was literally the first song to wrap it up. And for some reason, like this like slow jazz song with like a
Oh my
loud trumpet in the
gosh.
background comes on.
Oh,
And
wow.
we just all started cracking up
It
laughing. It
was
was just like the
terrible.
timing of it was perfect. It was hilarious. He was mad and like just laughing at the same time. It was so funny.
Did you do it on purpose?
Well, heck no, but it was hilarious. He was ready to kick me out. He's like, Nelson!
That's funny.
So I guess we'll just get right into it. The first question that I kind of wanted to ask y'all was just like, how did y'all start in ministry? Y'all are both so young. Like sometimes I forget how young y'all are, and I'm just like,
Oh,
because
I'm young. Peyton's not as young.
Yes, I am.
for those of you who don't know, Jonah's just a little bit younger than Peyton, but
2.5
they're
years.
both very young, both working in youth ministry, moved out of state to take on this position that they're in now, starting a family with really just a new foundation, new environment, new people around
Mm-hmm.
them. So how'd you kind of get started into this journey of ministry? Like when did y'all first start serving and how'd y'all get into it?
Yeah. So I guess we both started. I guess our first kind of moment was, I guess it started with me. We were at Winterfest actually during COVID, and so everything was shut down, but we still went up there and we met up with one of our um, an old church that I went to when I was a kid and my grandfather pastored. And we went with their group and they had services like in a hotel conference room. And so they had worship, word, all that stuff. And one of the altar calls, the youth pastor, who's actually a pastor here in Louisiana now, funny enough. Um, but he come over to me and just kind of prayed a prayer, and somewhere in it just kind of said, if you he felt like the Lord impressed upon him to tell me that if you didn't go into ministry, that it would be an opportunity missed. And then from that moment on, Peyton and I we were dating at that time, and we just kind of felt um, that was kind of a route that we were going to go at some point in our lives. We just didn't know when and where that. But then I mean, both grew up in church, so volunteering, serving at the church was nothing new to either of us. But then we went through in 2021 and got our exhorter's license through the Church of God, and um, went through CAMS and So we went through that process, and we just didn't know where and when the time was. But we went and interviewed at a church in Georgia, and that didn't end up working out. But then at the beginning of 2024, we just kind of felt like the Lord was doing something, and I was working for my parents, and she is working the job that she is now. But we just knew the Lord was doing something. And then in July, Pastor Kevin called, and he was like, "I have this opportunity. Would y'all want to come?" And we had probably an hour and a half to decide, if
Oh
that.
my gosh.
He kind of put a squeeze on us.
But to back it up, we had a conversation with them back in January, and that so January to all this time, nothing had really happened. But Jonah and I knew and felt really confident that we were going to end up in Louisiana. So
The
like,
door would open.
yes, yeah,
Mm.
yes, we had like a couple hours to decide, but really in our hearts, like we knew the answer, and we were just like waiting on the call.
Yeah.
Wow.
Well, and like 3 days before he called us, we'd started a Daniel fast, 21-day Daniel fast. And so,
One of our three things on it was guidance and ministry,
Yeah.
and day three was answered.
yeah,
Wow.
we had several other things that we were praying about answered as well during that time period. But yeah, that's kind of what has got us to this point. But then we also served in youth ministry at our church in Huntsville, and helped out, and we're very involved in it. So
Mm.
yeah, that's
Well,
what got us to where we're at now.
I have another question also. Like, after y'all talked about it, like, I have another question that came to mind, but I think it's so cool that the Lord called y'all in 2020, right? So that was like a year, or how many years waiting?
Lord.
4.5. Yeah.
It reminds me of like David. Like, David was called to be king, but it took 15, or I don't know, I think it was 15 or 20 years for him to actually become king. So it's like y'all were so patient, and like knowing that that waiting season was for preparation. So I just thought that was cool to point out. But
It's actually really funny you mentioned that because in around April of 24, at our old church, pastor was doing a whole series on David, and he was preaching about the waiting season.
oh my gosh.
The whole message, I was like, I just know he's going to pray for Jonah. Like, I just know it. I know it. And he did. He was like, Jonah, come here. I want to pray for you. And one of the things that he said was, you've been in a waiting season, but your time is about to come. And then 2 or 3 months later is when we ended up moving. It's funny.
That gave me the chills just now. That's so cool.
That's awesome.
So before you got prayed over at that conference, did ministry ever cross your mind? Like, was it something you ever expected or felt a little called to, or was it just like he just told you right then and there?
Maybe, which I was in high school still. I was a junior, but maybe not full-time ministry, but definitely being involved in the local church.
Yeah.
Which, I mean, I've always done. We've Even when my grandfather was a pastor on Sunday nights, me and my brother would go around and take up the offering.
Hmm.
Just being involved in the local church is nothing new to either of us, but that was probably the moment where it was like, okay, full-time ministry is now on the table.
For me, looking back, it's funny because like when I was younger, I would always say, I want to be a pastor's wife, and like I want to be in worship and all this. And it was just things that I would say, but like never really thought would happen. And so then to see like where our life is now, it's like, well, I probably had those desires for a reason. Like it was actually,
Wow.
but so it's kind of same, like not really, but kind of.
Yeah.
Hmm.
We didn't have another career path, to be honest. I was in high school when that happened, and I really didn't know what I wanted to do as far as like an occupation. And so once I graduated, we got engaged immediately. I did construction for like 4 or 5 months, and then my parents bought two like hardware and feed stores, and I managed one of those for 2.5 years. But it was never like something that was set in stone as far as an occupation. Wasn't like I wanted to go be a doctor, and the Lord just everything. So, yeah.
Could have been the Lord setting it up the whole time. Just gave you something that you could have stepped away from. I know because your parents own it, you could have just been like, hey, I'm going to pursue this route in ministry. And they would probably been like, we got your back, go do it.
Yeah, absolutely. And we always had those open conversations of, and they understood like this was not permanent.
Forever.
Yeah. And especially in 2024, we had probably 2 or 3 conversations of like, hey, we're thinking that the Lord is leading us this way. We just don't know when and where.
Yeah.
Um, so, but yeah, they were always super supportive. Which my mom, she was a PK, so she understood what all that entails. But so
I
yeah,
think it's pretty cool how Peyton kind of had the dreams of being like a pastor's wife and all those things and how they've all come to be. But because it's like a lot of times I feel like it's the opposite. Like a lot of people like run from those things or like they feel like they may end up with someone like that and they kind of run from the calling. Like, I don't really want to end up with a pastor or something like that. Like for me, that was the case, majority of just growing up and leading into ministry, like I was always running from it. Like I felt like I knew I had a calling on my life to do ministry in some way, shape, or form. But
yeah.
like for the most part, I was like, I don't want to be in ministry. Just like kind of just trying to push it away. But I think that's pretty cool that you had that dream and then it's also fulfilled.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. You know, when people like share their testimonies and um you always think about like the powerful testimonies being like, well, I was a drug addict and like those kind of things, and they're powerful. But like I don't have that. My testimony is that the Lord kept me. Like I've always been in church and He's kept me there, and I haven't strayed too far off the path. But I've always loved the church, and I think that, and I grew up in church. I was like, we went to church, and I've always loved it, and I think that's part of where I want to marry pastors so that I can be,
Yeah.
you know. But yeah, you do see a lot of people running from the call. I think for different reasons, but yeah, no, for me it was just always a dream. I just didn't realize it was a dream that the Lord was giving me.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I love that. I feel like a lot of times people think that like or the desires we have for ourselves, like okay, I'm gonna re-say this. They think that like the desires that we have when we're seeking God, like sometimes we forget that like God puts His desires in our hearts too.
Right.
But as long as we are seeking God, and He's the forefront of our mind, and like we are in our word and we're praying and we're asking Him to lead us, like He is going to put those desires, and maybe like the exact desire of your heart isn't exactly how He's going to do it, but like it could lead to something like that. And for you it was really cool because you had these desires, and like at the time you were dating Jonah, who like wasn't officially going to be in ministry, but then after some time went by, God was like, okay, this is actually all part of the plan. And it was the whole time.
Yeah.
And even though it didn't seem that way, it was.
I'll never forget that Winterfest where that was kind of spoken over his life in 2020. He came up to me afterwards, and we had been dating for a year. Yes, we have been dating for a year. Mind you, he's in high school, I'm in college. And but like we knew we wanted to get married. We knew that from like before we even started dating. But I'll never forget him coming up to me and being like, "So, you want to be a pastor's wife?" And like that moment was so surreal for me because I was like, "Yeah, I do actually." Like, but yeah, it's just crazy.
And then you stuck around, you're like, that's my pastor. So I have a question. Y'all are, like I was saying in the beginning, y'all are both young. Were there any difficulties stepping into youth ministry at a young age? Because I know whenever I stepped into youth ministry, there was always just like doubts almost, or just like people questioning. Because I think I stepped into a youth pastor position at like 18, 19 years old. Like I literally had just stepped out of youth group and they're like, all right, you're going to lead it now.
Yeah.
And so I really questioned it. I'm like, I don't like whenever I got whenever somebody asked me if I wanted to take that position, I'm like, I'm not capable of this. Like I'm just out of youth group. Like I started doubting myself and started thinking about what other people thought. And so like what were maybe some of the difficulties that you faced, or were there any difficulties that you faced like stepping into youth ministry at just like a young couple?
I would say probably, which we both spoke a couple of times at our previous church, but probably just the week to week in and out of, all right, preparing a message, speaking to the students, and then growing a, a small youth ministry,
Mm-hmm.
making it more relational, and stuff like that, if that makes sense.
Just
just a week to week. All right, this is what a week in the life of a youth pastor looks like,
Yeah.
and managing my time, um, making sure that I have enough prepared for the students, making sure that they're not bored out of their mind and feeling like they're just at another class at school.
Hmm.
And that's been something that even over the last year that has I've grown in, and making sure that I get the students involved in the service, making sure we get involved,
Yeah.
students and stuff like that. That's probably the biggest thing
But as
for.
far as our age,
uh
I feel like so moving, I think, played in our favor. If we would have stayed where we were at in Alabama and people like knew us,
Knew y'all from growing up and everything.
it
Yeah.
would have been way different. So we moved here, nobody knows us.
yeah,
Yeah.
I think that really, really played in our favor. I think also part of our age has helped us is that we're not like too far removed
You
from
can
them.
connect with the students. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, so that helps. But yeah, I agree that sometimes there's doubts in your mind of, um, well, what do they think? Like we are so young, and
Yeah.
so will we have that respect? I think is
Hmm.
sometimes a doubt, but it's just something that you have to work to continually establish because
Yeah.
sometimes they do see, well, y'all aren't much older than us. It's like that's true. However, God positioned us here for a reason. So
Hmm.
Hmm.
that for us, there's pros and cons, but I definitely think moving away helped us.
I could see that
Yes.
for sure. Definitely. Yeah, because my battle was less with the students, and like I think I was able to gain respect, and because like I would just be open about my experiences. I'm not much older than them, so I'm kind of walking through the same things as them. But it was more like parents and staff members and stuff like that. It's like if I wanted to do a trip, they're like, "Well, we need to get some adults going with you." I'm like, "You're not calling me adult?"
Yeah.
well, like for even for Winterfest, like getting vans and stuff like that, you've got to be 25.
to
And like
to rent a van. Yeah.
so we had a one of our leaders, he was older than 25, and so he ended up driving the van, like meeting age requirements as.
That had me, yeah, I had that struggle. So, kind of backstory for the listeners. So, y'all kind of had a relationship with Pastor Kevin, who is the lead pastor of North Shore Worship, the church that y'all serve at. And so, he reached out to y'all about an opportunity to come serve at his church. And really, the church that he was serving at was kind of in a rebuild phase. There wasn't much people, not much of a youth group. And so, y'all really had to build from the ground up. And so, is there anything that y'all could say about that? Because right now y'all's youth group is flourishing. Y'all have a ton of kids. Like y'all are growing out of the rooms that y'all have at the church, and when y'all started with nothing. So y'all speak on that a little bit?
Yeah, and the church we were at, we were running between 75 and 85 kids.
And we were just volunteers.
Yeah, we were volunteers there, and then moving here, and um we had a brief stint where we stepped away from the church that we were at and went to a church plant, and so we kind of, which she was out of the youth at this point, but there was a time of me being in youth where it was just three of us, and it was me, my brother, and then one of our friends in the neighborhood. So kind of having that may have helped where we're at now. And our first Wednesday, well, we had like a our first Wednesday we had like just some food and hang out, kind of a meet and greet type thing. We had 8 kids. And our first like official Wednesday service, we had one kid, and that was like a very humbling
So
experience
hold
for
on,
both of
let me
us.
clarify.
Yeah,
Our first Wednesday night here, we had like a fall kickoff. We had like 8 kids. The next week, we were going to have our first official service, and we had one kid show up. And Joan and I were like, "Oh my god!" like
yeah. I guess we felt defeated, you know.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that being
absolutely.
such a God thing.
Yeah,
It was such a God thing, and it like looking back, it was all for the best.
Hmm.
We got to really connect with that student.
yeah,
But yeah, it's not easy. It's definitely not easy. It's
yeah,
been hard. I think one of our biggest challenges is learning the culture. because Louisiana culture is way different from Alabama.
It's so different.
Totally different.
Yeah.
And yeah, you're realizing that.
Oh my gosh, no, like we traded spots. Like I'm in
Yeah.
Alabama now, y'all are in Louisiana.
Yeah, it's
It's
different than that.
crazy.
Yeah.
Mhm.
So learning the culture has been probably our biggest challenge. But like one of our biggest nights in youth was when we did a crawfish boil. So, just like learning what they like, and usually when food's involved, that's when they start out.
Yeah.
But yeah, I
Hopefully,
think
Jonah didn't
also,
cook the crawfish.
yeah, I think also like leaning on our pastors.
Yeah. And their experience in larger churches and smaller churches, and just making relationship with these kids is the biggest thing.
Mhm.
Because kind of peeling them back like a layer at a time and getting to know them, getting to know their families and their situations, and then just having like small little bumps. Like we would have like a service or something like that, and they would invite two or three of their friends, and then just keeping their friend in the door, and then the friend invites somebody, and it's just been like a slow climb of the mountain. But it's
Yeah.
been, I mean, we've had some humbling experiences even in 1 year, but we definitely know that the Lord's got His hand on this church, on the church, the youth ministry, and we're still pushing. So,
Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah.
but yeah,
There's so many times, like, I love that in y'all's situation too. Like, that could have seemed so discouraging for y'all. And, like, it probably was discouraging to experience that. But then, like, just to see where it is now, like,
Mm-hmm.
I went, I've seen it grow because I spoke one Wednesday, like April or something.
yeah,
And, like, there was a good bit of people, but, like, I saw a picture the other day of the youth group, like, last time, and it, like, doubled. I was amazed. I was like, God's hand is so much, like, it is so in this, and maybe that first Wednesday, it did not seem that way at all, because there was one kid, but then who knew what God would do just a couple months later? And
Yeah.
it's like, y'all could have given up in that moment, but y'all trusted him and y'all stayed faithful.
And looking back, like, because even the day to day, you think about, and Nelson, I'm sure you like probably can understand this, but you think about like all the little bitty things going on and like, okay, how is this? How are we doing here? How are we doing here? But when you take a step back and you look, wait a minute, like, look at how far we've come in a year.
Yeah.
That's when it's like, okay, let's look at the big picture here. Like, yeah, there's small things, there's things we need to work on, all this stuff. But even last night we had a like a little Christmas party with our youth staff. And we were walking up to dinner and said, Jonah, we didn't have a youth staff last year.
That's awesome.
Oh, it's just like
Yeah.
the surreal moments that
Yeah,
like, it's real easy to get in your head and to be negative. But then when you look back
absolutely.
and see what God has done, it's like he's done a lot.
Yeah.
Yeah.
A lot.
You're your biggest critic, right? And so
yeah,
like, I mean, y'all have only been at this position for what, a year and a half now? Y'all said July of 24. And so like, sometimes you may have like anticipate like a certain crowd or like a certain, turnout or this or that. But then like you said, you take a step back and you like look at the bigger picture, like look at a picture of summer of 2024 and it was just like y'all and one other kid. Like
Yeah.
this is awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So what are like some ways that y'all kind of navigate what kind of relationships to build with each student? Because I know it's got to be different, like depending on where they might be in their walk with the Lord. Like some might be like so close to the Lord already, some might be like don't even know him, don't even know what the gospel is yet. So like how do y'all kind of figure out what kinds of relationships to build with each one? And like how do you go about that?
So a lot of our students now didn't grow up in church. So with like the majority of our students, we're really at baby steps with them. But I think we also have a group of student leaders that we just implemented. And we started this group. We're like, pull just a few aside and like, hey, we see leadership qualities in you and we want to develop that in you. So we took that group and, are trying to like mold them and focus on that relationship. But we tell them too, this isn't a secret group. If your friends catch whiff of it and they're like, what's a student leader? I want to be one. Then like come talk to us. It's not this
Yeah.
like top secret group that we have. But I think a lot of our students are kind of in the same boat of like not growing up in church. And so with that, which is the complete opposite of us, we grew up in church. So that's been another lesson
Mhm.
for us. But with that, a lot of our relationships have almost been similar in how we disciple each of them. Now, some of them, like you said, um, have more of a desire, and some of them are like, okay, I'm at church, like you got,
Mhm.
I'm just here for the food.
Yeah.
and for
You
that,
have those.
yeah, and for that, we're like, praise God, at least they're here,
Absolutely. You get them through
But
the door.
yes, it gets them in the doors. But I think a lot of them,
A
really,
lot, I would, yeah, 90% are they're in kind of the same like same playing field as far as
Mhm.
where they're at in their walk with the Lord and like what we would have learned in like kids church. We're teaching them at anywhere from 6th to 12th grades.
Yeah.
which
Um,
is crazy, but also like awesome
yep.
that
Yeah.
the biggest thing that we say all the time is none of these students are being forced to come to church. They come on their own. Like their
Yeah.
parents are not forcing them. And that's the biggest thing that we're like, that's only God.
Yeah.
Mhm.
That's only God. So
Yeah.
it's interesting, but it's also like it's super cool to watch.
Yeah.
Mhm.
I
Yeah.
will say this because I know Jonah told me this and Pastor Kevin said it on a Sunday service. Y'all had a kid Uber to church. Like, that's
Yeah.
crazy.
I was
That's
thinking the
awesome.
same thing.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, so he was a first timer and saw our post on Instagram and he was like, I want to come. And so he gets there and we were walking out the front of the church and we're like, hey, what's your name? And he's like, I'm CJ. And we're like, hey CJ,
He said, I'm CJ, I'm new. We're like,
yeah.
hey CJ.
She's like super out there and
I'm waiting on my Uber.
Yeah.
we're like, how'd you get here? And he was like, I Ubered. And we were both kind of like shocked. And he's like, I Ubered. And we were like, holy cow, we've never heard of a student Uber.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Amazing. And so then he was going around all night being like, y'all can't say you ain't got no excuse to not be here. Like this
Yeah.
is Ubered.
Yeah. Because
That's funny.
we've got students, they'll be like, oh, I can't come, whatever, my ride or whatever. I don't have gas money, whatever. And we're like, well, I mean, he Ubered to church. No excuse.
All your excuses are out the window now.
Yeah.
That's also pretty cool because he found it on y'all's social media. Like sometimes you post things and not know if it's like reaching anybody or getting anywhere. And the fact that they saw that and decided to come to y'all's church, that's awesome.
Yeah,
Mhm.
that's actually the second student that we have just from social media.
Wow.
And I do the social media, and yes, sometimes I'm like, this doesn't even matter. Like, and it's so time consuming mentally. But we have two students because of social media.
2 souls right there.
Yeah, it's just
Yes.
crazy. And like we finally got on TikTok. Y'all, I know we're so late, but got on TikTok today and like one of our reels, we have like 10 followers, and the last I checked it had like 40 something likes. And I was like, what the heck?
Yeah, it's pretty cool.
I
Yeah.
love y'all's reels. Oh my gosh. They're always so funny.
Me and Emma are terrible at posting reels like that.
It's not my strong suit. I have to really, really push myself. But we also try to involve our students, like,
Yeah.
go make this real because, they're funnier than we are. So
Well, they'll take ownership of it and then they'll just run with it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's good.
Yeah.
Mhm.
So I have a question because you have like y'all were talking about kind of the dynamic of y'all students and most of them like basically, starting a relationship with Jesus in y'all's youth group. Was there any struggles of like wanting to go like deeper and further with your messages and just like the presence of the Holy Spirit, but like times like you were like, all right, maybe we need to water this down because maybe no one's going to receive this.
Yeah. And we even, so like when we first started, like an order of service was not a thing. So
Mhm.
like kids were just coming and they were, I really don't know what was, I think they may have just been kind of been like very small group, just kind of talking. And so coming in and kind of laying a foundation of, all right, we're going to come in, we're going to have a worship song. And then we've just slowly built on that.
Mm-hmm.
And now we do 2 worship songs and we have an altar call and um, some weeks we don't have any respond just because they don't feel led to or maybe they want to but just they've never seen that happen before.
Yeah.
But just always being open to what the Lord wants to do, and sometimes we have several respond, sometimes we have none, but just continually um, making a space available for the students to have that opportunity, because you never know what they're going through, and you don't know that maybe sometimes I'm reluctant to have an altar call just because maybe the students haven't responded in a while.
Mm-hmm.
Always trying to be consistent and giving them a space to feel comfortable, but
Yeah.
we've definitely had um, probably times where it could have went deeper, but just because of where our students are at and their lives, maybe keeping it more surface level. Um, but then we've implemented having small groups at our house too, and that's kind of where we try to go a little bit deeper
Mm-hmm.
um, into various topics. And that's probably more where the students who are hungrier, they
Yeah.
will come, and that gives us that opportunity to kind of dive a little bit deeper than what we can in like 20 minutes on a Wednesday night.
But
Yeah.
also, I think too, like since we do have to keep it so more surface level, it's also just a good reminder of what the gospel is, that like we
Hmm.
overcomplicate it. And
Mm-hmm.
sometimes like just the simplicity, like when our first series that he did was on prayer, worship, and reading your Bible. Like super simple, but to them, they never really heard this before.
Yeah.
And so it's just like going back to the basics that we overcomplicate all the time. So it's been good for us too to like just remember like the simplicity of the gospel.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Sometimes the most profound messages are like the simplest messages from God, because that's usually where I ever get caught up in, like, if I'm struggling with something or I'm dealing with this, it's like just go back to the basics. Like
Yeah.
don't forget what the whole purpose of like Jesus was. Like that's the simplest thing. Um I want to kind of hit on the leadership teams, because that is something that I've seen time and time again like truly benefit people so much, not just like the leadership team themselves, but obviously also the other people in the youth group. Like whenever we had our youth group, um, I don't know if I don't know like how we ended up doing this, but like we kind of did like welcome, not I don't want to say welcome like committee, like that wasn't the whole thing, but we were
That's
just told
basically
like
what it was.
kind of, but it was just, like if there's someone new, like make sure that make sure you meet them and talk to them. And like, it wasn't like you had to do it every single time, but it was just like encouraging people,
Mm-hmm.
pushing the people that were already comfortable to like get out their comfort zone and just meet other people. And like when I tell you, two of some of our best friends that like we made in that youth group were because we were like on this welcome thing, and like I'm taking credit. It was really Kaylin, like my sister. Kaylin's the one that like reached
She
out
was
the
good at
most.
it.
Yeah.
Yeah, like I would talk sometimes, but Kaylin every time no fail, like she always would make sure to talk to people that were new. And two
Mm-hmm.
of our best friends now are girls that Kaylin talked to, and like it's just so cool to see that, just because like we were encouraged to be leaders,
Yeah.
now we have these deep friendships with them, and who knows if they would have stayed or not if we hadn't had talked to them, because
Yeah.
it is like sometimes if you're not talked to, you don't feel welcomed, or like you feel out of place, and that's totally normal. So it was just awesome to see like pushing leadership genuinely makes a difference. Like I've seen it. It's just so cool.
Yeah.
There's only so much that you can do as far as reaching students as a leader. Like you can do things, but you're going to need help eventually. And so I like knew in situations like, let me go reach out to some of my outgoing students, some of the ones that are warm and welcoming. And for some of them, like I had to get them out of their comfort zone. Like
Yeah.
some of them, like they were good at it, but they didn't know just because they didn't do it all the time. And so
Yeah.
I'm like, all right, look, there's a new person over there. I want you to go meet them, kind of make them feel welcome. And it makes a big difference because, I know the two girls that she's talking about, like I wouldn't been able to like grab them into the youth
Right.
group like that, like with their
Yeah.
attention and talk to something that they can relate about. And so they were able to step into that. And so many other, students the same way, like just having a community that's so welcoming where they don't feel alone. I know that's tough for a lot of students nowadays. It's just like, they're just filled with anxiety and they tell themselves like, I don't want to do this, I
Hmm.
don't want to go to church alone, I don't want to do this, I don't want to do that. And so like whenever you step in, one of the first things, like if somebody just makes you feel loved or welcome, that makes you want to come back.
Yeah.
Hmm.
Yeah, exactly. And that's what we told our student leaders the first meeting we had. We were like, y'all can reach kids more than we can. You're the
Yeah.
Absolutely.
schools every day. We're not. You're the ones that people are watching you more than they're watching.
Mm-hmm.
You can relate. So, getting getting them to fully understand that is what we're trying,
Mm-hmm.
understand that the weight that they carry and that they have, like the I can't think of the word, but like the
Pull
the pull that they have.
Yeah.
the influence.
Yeah, the influence. Like they've got it.
Mm-hmm.
We've got some, but they've really got it,
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
That's one of the huge reasons that we wanted to implement that is because students are going to listen to students.
Yeah. Jonah could preach a great message, but at the end of the day, if the kids don't feel like it's home for them, like they don't have friends to come and they're
Mm-hmm.
excited to see,
Yeah.
like they're going to find somewhere else to go.
Exactly. Yeah.
That's honestly just like, that's just the beauty of how Jesus is the example for us for that. Like, those kind of ideas come from the way Jesus acted. Like, he was welcoming to everybody. Like, he talked to everybody.
Yeah. And it didn't matter what I think more the religious mindset is. Jesus is sitting,
Sorry, she's in her sleep. Lila.
uh, like Jesus, how he went and sat with sinners, but then the Pharisees were always kind of like, why are you sitting with these people? And
Mhm.
he's just the best person, the best model for us to look at, regardless of where someone may be in this season of their life, is just reaching down
Mm-hmm.
even to the lowest and picking them up, and
Yeah.
Yeah.
making sure that there's always, regardless of what the situation may look like at home or in their life, just always having that door open for them to be able to come in and have an encounter with the Lord. So
Mm. Today, I felt like the Lord kind of, just like, he reminded me of like that verse where it's like, what you do to wait,
The
what you
lead.
do for the least of
Yeah.
these, like you do also unto me. And I was just reminded of that because there's so many times like we fear to even just talk to somebody because we're like, oh, like I haven't experienced what they experienced, so I don't know, I might say something wrong, or like this is something recently I've like encountered a lot. So at Alabama, there's like a huge international population, and like majority of them haven't even heard of the gospel, don't know what it is. They might know what Christianity is, but their vision of it is like people that say they're Christians and then don't act like it at all. And so they think like that's what a Christian is. And like I guess I was kind of, this sounds horrible, but I was just worried like, oh, I don't know their culture or anything and I don't want to be offensive, so like I'm just not going to really partake in those kind of ministries because they have an international student ministry. But I had a conversation with one lady that like she's like all in that international ministry, and she just was telling me like how they just like some of them never step foot in an American home when they're here. And I'm like, "Oh my gosh, like that's crazy." Because no one, like people are afraid to reach out. And so just like making sure that we're not afraid to talk to whoever it is that God puts in our path. Like I think that's so cool.
Yeah.
and maybe even you don't have the connection that, like, the connection where you just hit it off with somebody, then just in a short conversation you learn that they like basketball, and maybe you don't like basketball, but you can find somebody else that is a part and plugged into the youth,
Hmm.
and then you
Yeah.
that kind of connecting point. I think
Yeah.
that's
Mhm.
also helpful.
Absolutely.
I love that.
I was going to say something about y'all kind of just moving away from Alabama. I'm sure, Joni, you still have family in Tennessee. What has it been like moving to Louisiana, taking on this new role? And what does the dynamic in your relationship with your church, your youth group look like? And how is it affected with y'all kind of just being pulled away from like y'all's blood relatives, really?
So I moved several times as a kid. I have a lot of my family in my hometown, but then we moved away from them, and that was probably like and I was in fifth grade, and I had really close friends and stuff like that. That was probably the most difficult move that I had, just being away from everything that I knew and grew up with. And
Hmm.
then we moved from there to Huntsville. So that probably laid a foundation that was easier to be able to adjust, to surroundings, to people that you don't necessarily know, other than my core family, my brother, and my parents. Um,
Hmm.
but it is, I mean, us moving away from parents and her family, it was probably more difficult at the beginning. Now, especially that we've got Tate, it's probably more difficult for grandparents being further away. But since we've been here, I mean, we have such a great support system. Obviously, we have Pastor Kevin and Pastor Haley that are kind of like our parents in a sense, spiritually and I mean, anytime we need something, we know that we can call them.
Yeah.
And then Emma, your parents too.
Yeah.
They've been great for us on many occasions. Like Friday night, we took Tate over there and they watched him for a couple of hours while we went to an event. And we've
We
had,
call his name is Papa Rock.
yeah,
I don't.
Yeah.
Jonah gave him
I think I gave him the Papa name, but then I think maybe
maybe
one of
your
your
niece.
cousins or somebody, Uncle Rock or something like
Mhm.
Yeah.
that. Um, but yeah, we definitely have people in the church that we know, like if something goes wrong or we need help, like we
You
can
have
call
people to
them.
lean on.
Be
Yeah.
there. Even when Peyton went into labor with Tate at the hospital, we had let some people know in the church, and um, one of the ladies, she come and she stayed with us at the hospital until our parents got here. So just having those kind of relationships has been um, something that only the Lord could have provided. But I would say the adjustment of moving was probably easier on me, whereas Peyton, her living in the same house for 18 plus years and moving away from her family was probably a little bit more.
It's difficult, and it still is.
Yeah.
However, like we knew that it would happen. You know,
Mhm.
we wouldn't stay where we were at forever. And as difficult as it is, I'd much rather be in the will of the Lord.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's
And
good.
yeah. So, I mean, it's hard. It's not easy, but like we do have such a great church family. And we're not just saying that. If we didn't, we just like wouldn't comment on it. But we really have such a great church family and like, great pastors. And we also love Covington. We say all the time, like if we were going to move to Louisiana, we are so thankful that it's Covington and not like anywhere else. Um,
Mhm. Yeah.
yeah. So and it's been hard, especially with having Tate. But the Lord has sustained us and He's given us people here to be our family when
Yeah.
our family can't, I mean, our blood family can't be here.
Mhm.
Mhm.
So it's been extremely hard, but extremely rewarding. And like we would rather, it's always yes, Lord, whatever that is.
Mhm.
So it's hard.
Love
You
that.
know, yeah.
Kind of just to wrap up, I you were saying how it's rewarding. Like, what is the biggest, I guess, gift of like being able to be in youth ministry and like impact all of these kids?
I think like just seeing, and this is kind of going back to us saying like we are with students who did not grow up in church. So like it's like small things are huge things. Like I will never forget the first night that we had someone come to the altar. Like to us, it was like it's something that we were so used to in Alabama, but here it was like the biggest accomplishment. Like we were like, thank you, Lord, like this finally happened. And I think seeing those moments, it's like, okay, this is why we're here. This
Yeah.
is why we're doing this.
Mhm.
Um, when students tell us this, like, you know, I prayed or the things that sound so small, but just to know like this is the first time they've ever done anything like this in their life.
Yeah.
Mhm.
And to know that, or sometimes when they'll just like randomly call us to be like, hey, I'm at the store doing this or whatever, or like, hey, guess what? Like those, like the super random things where it's just like they we have a close enough relationship to where like they just want to call us and talk, and
Yeah.
like those are always the moments where it's like, okay, this is it. This is why we do this.
Mhm.
This is such rewarding. Because sometimes moments are hard and it's like, why am I doing this? But
Yeah.
in those moments, God always sneaks something in.
Yeah.
This
Mhm.
is why,
Yeah.
you know.
Yeah. Definitely having those light bulb moments that the students have, whether it's making an application to the word or maybe they just feel like the Lord is speaking to them that night and they respond. Um, Not to anything that I said or Peyton said or whoever is speaking that night said, but just responding to the Lord. That's probably been the most rewarding thing, I would say.
But I
Um,
think
Mhm.
I think one thing too is Jonah and I listened to a podcast a couple months ago. And you don't always see the fruit of your labor. especially like God brings the increase. We plant the seed, but He brings the increase, and that can be years. But we were listening to a podcast, and I think this has just like been ingrained in our brains, like it's stuck with us. But he said, when you get to heaven, you don't hear "Well done, good and successful servant." You hear "Well done, good and faithful servant."
Mm-hmm.
So God didn't call you to be successful; He called you to be faithful.
Yeah, that's good.
That's been something that I think we've just held on to in the moments that are hard and where we maybe don't feel successful, or we're not seeing the progress that we want to see. It's like, okay, we're doing what the Lord's called us to do. One thing that before we moved here, I felt the Lord say to me specifically, and I shared it with him, was stay humble, seek me, work hard, and I'll do the rest. And, it's just simple. But
Yeah.
I think just being reminded that God called us to be faithful, not successful. And that's
Yeah.
it's very freeing.
That's good.
Yeah.
That
Especially
is good.
especially when it's a night when maybe the number's lower than what you thought it would be, and then really and truly the our two biggest nights are nights that we didn't expect the number that was there.
Mm-hmm.
So you always kind of um, have a thought in your head of, all right, we'll have however many kids there, and then it's less than that. Sometimes you can be defeated because we're seeing the number, not necessarily the fruit that's being produced.
Mhm.
And then even in the nights where we have had big nights, like the Lord's just always just trying to remind us of being faithful, whether it's in the small one or it's in the large 30. Um, so
And I think too, that Bible verse that says, like, if I can trust you with the little,
yeah,
like if
Mm-hmm.
you can't be trusted with the little, then there's no way you can handle anything bigger.
Yeah.
So just bring that and remembering that, like, we're not the savior, Jesus is. He's the
Yeah.
one who calls, and it's not. We're called to be faithful, and that's it.
Yeah.
Mhm.
So
I think like Peyton was saying earlier about like trying to just get all the little things together in youth ministry. Like sometimes you get so caught up in just like trying to get everything lined up, but then the Lord, like, He just somehow always provides that moment for you to just take a step back and look at that big picture and be like, wow, He's using this. He's using this ministry. He's using us. It's impactful. Like I remember there was one time specifically in my youth group, like we had a retreat and it was like kind of just like a conference thing that I put together at some place and I was leading the whole thing. And I'm just like, man, I hope like the kids got something out of this. And it was like the night after I get a text from some kid and it was at like 3:30 in the morning and he's like, I've been reading my Bible all night. He's like, I'm ready to turn my life around. I'm ready to give my life to the Lord. And I'm like, oh man, this is what it's all about. And then
yeah,
even for us with our ministry now, it's like a lot of times the people that we reach, like y'all said, you'll never see, or you'll never see the impact, or you'll never see the fruits of your labor sometimes. And so this is just simple, but I had texted Emma because we had our Spotify Wrapped for the year for our
Mm.
podcast. And it gave us like the top 5 countries that are listening to our podcast. I'm like, countries? I was like, I was thinking we were only reaching people in Louisiana and Alabama. And so that was really cool. And then like just the Lord always provides, whether it's like somebody wanting to give their life to the Lord or get baptized or something like that. Like He just always provides those moments to just be like, I'm still working, like I'm doing stuff.
yeah,
Like you're not
Mhm.
just going through the motions.
right,
Yeah.
yeah, absolutely. There's God, and I think God always knows like when you need that encouragement.
Absolutely.
It's always on time.
Mhm.
It is.
Yeah.
We've had some low moments, and it's like always right around the corner is like God
Mhm.
is this,
Yep.
Mhm.
or how about take a step back and change your perspective. Sometimes I think it's on us, you know, fix your mindset, fix your
Yeah.
thoughts. And that's kind of going back to, I know
Mhm.
we've said it several times, but looking at the big picture and looking what God has done. And if He can do that, why can't He do more?
Yeah.
So, yeah.
That's good. All
I'm
right.
trying. Oh, sorry.
Go
I was
ahead.
gonna find a verse. I just read Isaiah 42 today. Okay, this might take me a long time to find because these chapters are long. Basically, it was saying how God is always working. Oh, wait, I want to find it. Hang on, guys.
If I were spiritual enough, I would know exactly what you're talking about.
Okay,
Yeah. Wouldn't we all?
I can't find it. However, it was basically saying that, like, because he was talking about, it was like Jesus, like, also like prophesying the Messiah. But he was just saying, like, God's like, how do you not know that like I'm always working in the behind the
Mhm.
scenes? Like I'm always moving. I've never stopped. Oh my gosh, it came to me. I don't know what it was about. I was talking about the Sabbath specifically. Oh, this is not in Isaiah. I'm sorry, guys. This is so confusing. Okay, it was John 5, and it was talking about the Sabbath. And like Jesus had healed someone on the Sabbath day, and the Pharisees were all like, "Oh no, like you can't heal on the Sabbath." But Jesus was like don't you know that like God is always working? Like God is never taking a break. Like He's working every day, and
Yeah.
God's working on the Sabbath.
I think it's in
So I
Matthew
just
9 or
thought that was
12
cool.
too. One of those.
Probably yes. Anyways, that's just what it reminded me of.
Yeah. I feel like for me too, there was times like I would give a message and I'd be like, I hope that like reached a student or that was impactful. But then like I would just have that moment of just thinking to myself, I'm like, I'm literally giving these kids the word of God. Like this is life. Like this has nothing to do with me. Like I've completely put myself aside. But like sometimes you still get in your own head and you're like, "Oh, like
Mhm.
is it enough? Are you doing enough? Are you know? But it's like it's the Lord's work. And I think what Peyton said earlier is like we'll just let the Lord, we'll be faithful and just, I would rather be in his will than anywhere else.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. Sometimes we put too much faith in ourselves. It's like,
Mm.
you're not the savior.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You're not. You can't save these kids. God
Yep.
can.
Mhm.
Vessel, but God, and I mean, obviously, you work hard at what you're doing. The Bible talks about working hard, but like, He brings the increase.
Mhm.
Hmm.
So getting that in your head, but like you said, you get in your head and you're your own worst critic. So like it's a
Yeah.
constant battle. Like you have to constantly take every thought captive and
Mhm.
just be reminded of what God says and the work that He's doing.
Yeah.
It's good. It's good. Well, we appreciate y'all coming on.
Yes.
It was a
Thank
great
y'all.
conversation. Love to hear y'all's story. And I know it'll be impactful for other people just to hear
Mhm.
that too, especially like some young people stepping into ministry. It gives them hope. Like, all
Yeah.
right, like I can step into this,
Mhm.
no
Yeah.
matter my age, and I can be impactful, and that there are struggles,
Yeah.
because sometimes we think it's just like easy breezy, because that's what we're supposed to as youth ministers is like make it seem like we have it all together.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Thank you for having us. This was
Yeah.
Yeah,
great to do.
absolutely. I'll
Yep.
pray for us real quick and we'll let y'all get on with y'all's night. Jesus, we come to you today, and first of all, we just thank you for Jonah and Peyton and just for what you're doing in their lives and their ministry. We just ask you to just continue to bless them, continue to grow their youth group, and to grow their impact, Lord. I pray that you would just guide them, protect them, and be with them, and just continue to provide what they need, whether it's people in their lives, relationships, or resources, or whatever it may be, Father, that you would just be with them, that you would bless us, and help us to just grow in our faith and always trust you and continue to do your will for our lives. We love you. We praise you in Jesus' name. Amen.
Amen. Yes.